If you're serious about becoming a real information technology leader, subscribe to IT Leadership Hub. That's what we build here. Let's talk about something a lot of people in technology deal with, but not enough people say out loud. Having a toxic boss in information technology is not just frustrating, it is dangerous. When you are already managing outages, deadlines, security risks, constant change, and pressure from every direction, the last thing you need is a manager who adds chaos instead of leadership. Maybe they blame you in public. Maybe they steal your ideas. Maybe they create constant fire drills. Maybe they move the target every time you get close. Maybe they withhold information and then act like your failure was your fault. That is not leadership. That is dysfunction. And in information technology, dysfunction spreads fast. A toxic boss does not just make work miserable. They increase burnout. They hurt team morale. They damage trust. They slow delivery. They raise risk. And over time, they can make good people question their own value. But here's the part you need to hear. You are not powerless. You may not be able to control your boss, but you can control how you respond. You can control how you protect your reputation. You can control how you position yourself. And you can control what you do next. The first mindset shift is this: stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a strategic operator. That does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means treating this situation like a real-world systems problem. Study the patterns, watch the triggers, notice when the blame starts, notice how the communication changes, notice where the political pressure comes from, notice who sees what is happening. Toxic behavior is rarely random. There is usually a pattern, and once you see the pattern, you can respond with more clarity and less emotion. That leads to the next move. Stay professional when your boss is not. This is hard, but it matters. If they lose control in a meeting, you do not. If they criticize you publicly, stay calm. If they try to blame you for something that was never yours, respond with facts, not emotion. Your professionalism is not weakness, it is contrast. In a toxic environment, calm professionalism stands out. People notice who is steady. People notice who is prepared. People notice who creates clarity when everything else feels messy. And that matters more than you think. Next, document everything that matters. In technology, we understand the value of logs. Apply that same principle to your work life. Keep a clear record of important conversations, decisions, changes in scope, denied instructions, and moments when blame gets rewritten after the fact. After meetings or verbal discussions, follow up in writing. Something simple works. Per our discussion today, the agreed timeline is this. The owner of this task is this. The priority is this. The expected outcome is this. That is not passive-aggressive. That is professional clarity. And in a toxic environment, clarity protects you. You also need to learn how to manage up. A lot of people in information technology never develop this skill until they are forced to. Managing up means making your work visible beyond your direct manager. It means connecting your work to business outcomes, not just effort, not just technical detail, outcomes. Talk about uptime, talk about reliability, talk about security posture, talk about delivery speed, talk about efficiency, talk about business impact. You want leaders above your boss to understand the value you create in terms they care about. You also want to build relationships across the organization. Strong peer relationships matter. Product leaders, operations leaders, finance partners, security teams, engineering peers, project managers. These relationships protect your internal reputation. They give you context. They give you advocates. And they help make sure your work is seen accurately, even if your boss is trying to distort the picture. Here is another critical strategy. Control communication and create clarity in writing. Toxic managers often thrive in ambiguity, unclear expectations, verbal-only requests, shifting priorities, contradictory instructions. If you leave things vague, they can rewrite the story later, so do not leave things vague. Confirm scope in writing. Confirm deadlines in writing. Confirm changes in writing. Confirm trade-offs in writing. The more clarity you create, the less room there is for manipulation. You also need boundaries, not dramatic boundaries, not emotional speeches, professional boundaries. If your manager keeps demanding unreasonable work with no justification, respond calmly and clearly. You do not need a fight, you need consistency. Boundaries are not about winning one big moment. They are about sending a signal over time. That signal is this: I am professional, I am steady, I am cooperative, but I am not available for endless chaos without accountability. Now let's talk about emotional traps. A toxic boss wants you pulled into personal battles. They want reaction. They want drama. They want you operating emotionally instead of strategically. Do not play that game. Stay focused on outcomes. Bring conversations back to delivery, back to execution, back to risk, back to solutions, back to the work. The more grounded you stay in outcomes, the stronger your position becomes. At some point, you may need to ask a harder question. Should you escalate? Escalation is not about revenge. It is not tattling. It is not being emotional. Escalation is a professional decision when the behavior is creating real business harm. If the behavior is hurting delivery, creating turnover, damaging trust, increasing risk, or undermining the team's ability to function, then it may be time to involve the right people. But do it wisely. Bring documentation. Bring specifics. Bring patterns. Bring business impact. Do not make it about personality. Make it about organizational risk. That is the difference between complaining and leading. And while you are managing the current situation, do something else quietly in the background. Build leverage, improve your skills, grow your network, increase your visibility, sharpen your leadership ability, strengthen your resume, create options. Because one of the most powerful things you can do in a toxic environment is become harder to dismiss and easier to hire. When you have options, you think differently, you speak differently, you carry yourself differently, you stop acting trapped, and that matters. Sometimes staying is useful, sometimes leaving is smarter. Staying can make sense if you are still learning, still growing, still building something that will help your long-term career, and the dysfunction is limited enough that you can navigate it without losing yourself. But leaving may be the right move if your health is declining, your reputation is being damaged, leadership does not care, or the toxicity is so deep that there is no realistic path to improvement. And let's be clear, leaving is not failure. Sometimes leaving is wisdom. Sometimes leaving is leadership. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is deciding that your future matters more than surviving someone else's dysfunction. Just do not leave reactively. Leave strategically. Leave with a plan. Leave with lessons. Leave with your professionalism intact. Leave on your terms. And here is the hidden truth in all of this. If you handle this kind of pressure well, you are building real leadership muscle. You are learning how to stay calm under pressure, how to communicate with precision, how to lead without formal authority, how to protect your team, how to manage politics without becoming cynical, how to stay focused when the environment is unstable. Those are not small skills. Those are real leadership skills. Difficult environments reveal people, but they also develop people. So if you are dealing with a toxic boss in information technology right now, remember this. You are not powerless. You are not crazy. You are not weak. And you are not stuck forever. Stay calm, stay sharp, document everything. Protect your name, build your leverage, and make your next move with intention. And before you go, I want to hear from you. Have you dealt with a toxic boss in information technology? What happened, and how did you deal with it? Drop your toxic boss story in the comments and share what worked, what did not, and what other leaders need to know. And if you want more real-world leadership content for people working in technology, subscribe to IT Leadership Hub. Follow IT Leadership Hub, where we build better leaders in technology.